Hi and welcome to day 6 of my video diaries that I'm recording every day that I'm teaching on the Lexical Lab 2018 Summer Schools. Day 6 is basically the first day of the second week, and for me today that meant starting the second week of the Teaching Lexically course. And what we were talking about today was the dreaded G word, grammar. It's always interesting talking to teachers about grammar, because what teachers mean when they talk about grammar is a kind of fascinating subject, I think. We began the whole discussion by me asking the group to share in 2s and 3s and 4s their own feelings about their grammar teaching and what aspects of grammar teaching they most or least enjoy teaching. And one of the interesting things that came up was, how difficult it is to actually do any meaningful communicative practice of a whole raft of different areas of grammar. So things like, relative clauses or articles or whatever basically don't lend themselves to any real kind of communicative practice. We also talked about the way in which a lot of so-called communicative practice of grammar structures is basically fairly mad, because it's a sort of artificial conversation designed in order to practice one particular grammar structure in isolation in a manner that won't necessarily help you use that structure outside of the artificial enforced massed practice activity that you've been using it in within the classroom. But that's a digression, a sidetrack there. What was really interesting for me was when the teachers were talking about what aspects of grammar they least like talking, the kinds of things that teachers were coming up with were things like phrasal verbs, different forms of words, so like educate, educator, educative, educational, that kind of thing, and even punctuation. And what was interesting for me are prepositions. That was another one that was mentioned. For me, none of those things are what I would think of as grammar, but experienced practicing English teachers, when asked to think about the things they don't like teaching about grammar, will mention these kind of things. And I think the reason it's interesting is because often, I'm sure every one of you watching these videos will have students who have said to you at various points in their studying career, I have problems with my grammar, I need more grammar. Well, if what we mean by grammar is things like prepositions, punctuation, phrasal verbs and word formation, then yes, you almost certainly do. I fear that often what happens is students will say things like, I need more grammar, when what they really mean is, I'm still struggling with phrasal verbs and prepositions. And what we do as teachers is hear the word grammar and sort of panic and say, oh my God, we need to go over the tense system again, and I better make sure they all buy another copy of Raymond Murphy's English Grammar and Use and work their way through it. Perhaps, actually, often when students say they need more work on their grammar, really what they're saying is just they need help with their language, they're struggling putting words together with other words, they're struggling to know which prepositions go with which particular phrases. They're struggling because once you get past a certain stage, knowledge of things like prepositions and phrasal verbs develops item by item by item. You can learn the basic meaning of things like in and on. It won't help you learn things like I'm on the bus, when logically you might be thinking it should be I'm in the bus. A conversation I overheard on the street the other day, lots of fighting on the streets of London. Those kind of prepositional phrases where they're sort of illogical a lot of the time, and they're often kind of counterintuitive. They can't be learned grammatically through learning underlying meanings. They have to be learned item by item. So next time a student of yours tells you, I need more grammar, they possibly don't mean I need to work through Murphy's English Grammar in Use again. They possibly just mean I need more language. Can you please help me with that? That's it for today.